My name is Dale Walker, and I'm a director and founder of the Crystal Awareness Institute, where we do research and training in natural healing using crystals and other devices. I became involved in crystal skulls back in 1980s. In 1986, I went to Canada to work with the Mitchell Hedges skull, owned by Anna Mitchell Hedges, which is a piece of quartz, totally ice clear, that was carved in the shape of a human skull. In that time, with a team together, we did it under the auspices of Nick Nocerino, who is the master of crystal skull research. We were able to trigger the memory of the skull itself to bring up images, graphic images, like graphic pictures in a computer, and we were able to photograph that particular images. So as it came to be, then later on I came into my own skull through a whole series of circumstances, and in doing that I came to the idea of how I could activate it and bring pictures out of it. So far to date I have photographed perhaps 400 or 500 pictures of images inside the skull.
Alright, I'm Avendar Dragon. I am an apprentice to a Toltec shaman. I've been an apprentice for the past 15 years. My benefactor, who's my teacher, I haven't met him physically, but he comes to me in dreams, and that's where I learn most of my knowledge. Toltec means person of knowledge, and teaches a particular form of shamanism that's mostly located in Central America, coming from the Toltecs, the Mayas, the Olmecs, the Mixtecs, the Aztecs, but it's not limited to that area. It's also wherever there is a warrior path or a path of the healer, the Shaolin in Asia, the shamans in the Russian steppes, the Native American in the various tribes in the North American continent, all have some aspect of this type of teaching. But I just teach a particular perspective of it, dealing with being impeccable with energy.
I can't speak for all the skulls, but I can speak for the ones I did research on. I personally have worked on 27 different skulls. I am aware that there are probably another 15, perhaps 20 more, and certainly there could be some I'm not aware of. So there could be up to 100 skulls which are not made in modern times. Now why would they make a skull? I'm not quite sure, except that there's some hint by the work that the Tibetan Buddhists do. They take a very famous teacher, a lama, a spiritual man. When he dies, they take the skull itself and they make it into a drinking cup by using different methods for it. Because they believe that the bone of the brain, the skull itself, absorbs the thoughts and actions and feelings, the essence of the person who is inside it. And because of that, their students then, if they drink this particular drink, which has been absorbing the energy of the master that had the skull, they believe that it makes it possible for them to get their information and perhaps even communicate to them over the gulf of the difference of death.
A lot of, especially the Central American lore, also had to do with something called the crystal skull and the mysteries of the crystal skull. My understanding of the crystal skull is that it relates to the legacies of ancient civilizations that have been here at one time but have evolved past what's called the human form or the realm of human issues and have gone into another dimension. And they have left something behind in the form of a crystal skull that is here to assist in the civilizations that are on their way up, so to speak. Consider this, when you die and you leave the human form, what do you leave behind? One of the things that you leave behind is a skull. So these beings who have gone into another dimension have left crystal skulls behind to illustrate that.
I was giving a lecture in San Jose, California, not too long, well, a couple of years ago, and I was giving the slide demonstration, and somebody asked me, well, how do you think these are recorded? And I said, well, I believe they're recorded on bands of light because we find them in layers. We find them, if we turn in one direction, we get one picture, we turn back, and we get another picture here. And this is all around in different directions. And if we shift the type of light frequency, such as a different color, we get different images. And even the look of it, the texture of the look of it is different. So we believe it does it on bands of light. And after I finished talking in my lecture, this gentleman came up to me and he said, I'm the vice president of a research company here in Silicon Valley. And for the past 5 years, we have been researching how to store information on bands of light. And he said, but we have not been able to successfully do it. Of course, if we can do it, that means we can store massive amounts of information in a small amount. And so I looked at him and said, well, it looks like somebody figured out how to do it. And he said, yeah, I'd sure like to know how. There was a technology that made this and used this that was something we don't have at the moment.
Well, we're already into the age of Aquarius. We're well through the cusp into that. But the problem is we're still fighting with the old thought forms of the Piscean age. The Piscean age was a very political age. It was, in it, humanity was considered very innocent. They had to be led. They had to be, guided. They were considered not to be very smart. So there was a whole political system set up to set up religions as the basis of manipulating behavior, right? Because for the most part, we were both combinations of light and darkness. They felt in the Piscean age that if you had the choice, you would go to the darkness rather than to the light. Now, the Aquarian age, more people are being emancipated into the light. They're choosing the light rather, and the old systems of political manipulations, religious manipulations, social institutions are going to fall away because they'll no longer be necessary. We'll have our own integrated sense of ourselves, that will contain its own morality. Now we're in that time where we're at war with this very principle within ourselves, the forces of light versus the forces of darkness. The problem is that, a lot of people take that war outside, and they blame it on other people. And this is done on a mass scale. Whereas it just comes down to every individual, taking care of themselves.
Here's rainbow colors right here. You have to get the light down into it so it creates the rainbow or the coloring effect. Rainbow's down in this part. See that? Rainbow's back here. Rainbow's right in here. As you turn it, you get this huge rainbow flash. You got that? That ought to make a really great picture. Can you see it? Okay. If you go deeper into that on a focal point, you may find suddenly a three-dimensional effect. I don't know if you can catch it or not. A three-dimensional effect as I move it, and images will start to appear.
Is it natural for this kind of crystal to have rainbow effects in it?
Yeah, It's natural to get the rainbow colors under certain circumstances. There are some quartz that do that. But what I found is, in shooting this with still camera, moving the focal point back and forth, so suddenly I get a three-dimensional effect. And taking a photo of that, I'm getting some very interesting images. And I have taken over 200 of those. Now, they're in full color, where these others may be in black and white or gray, shades of gray. Different kinds of color shots, but this comes in full color. Oh. Where's that and why is that? I don't know. I'm still, after 12 years of playing with this thing, I'm still absolutely fascinated by the possibilities of it.
Well, this skull, I've been doing a lot of scrying into it, which means gazing. You focus a light into it, and you can look into it, and you can actually see little thought forms in it, little images. And it's not as, the original crystal skull that was found is the Mitchell Hedges. And you can look into that, and you can actually see the images in there. It's like swirling all around, and it's like, it's there. You see it, and other people see it too. This, I think, is a more spiritual skull. It has the effect upon you energetically, but there's not a lot of physical phenomena around it, but there's a lot of spiritual phenomena. But you can look into it, and you can see at different times, different images. And whether I'm seeing it myself or other people are seeing it, I'm not exactly sure. I know that with the Mitchell Hedges skull, it was very much, everybody was seeing it. It was like a light show.
This skull has a hollow inside the bottom here. Okay, it's very precise mathematically. I did a wax mold and gave it to a mathematician friend of mine, and I did a wax mold of the inside of it and had him check it mathematically, and he says it's within 5% of total accuracy as a correct mathematical curve. The other part is, on the outside of the bottom of this skull is polished, except right at the edge it goes down inside its dull finish. The same thing is true of the eyes, which are exactly mathematically made, and the inside of them has the same dullness that you find in the bottom. Again, it's polished right to the outer edge, so it wasn't an accident that they didn't finish the polishing. They did it deliberately because it creates very specific optical effects. And some of the times when in some of the pictures where we photograph this, we'll see one eye just close and the other eye will open up. And then another time this will open and the other one will close. And when one time it just explodes open and you can't even see the eyes themselves, something else appears. So there was a very precise science that created this, which we have the slightest idea how it was done, and we can't duplicate it today.
Well, that's something really hard to understand. It's just that's what's happening. The original skull, the Mitchell Hedges skull, was found in a ancient Mayan settlement, an archaeological site, by a man named Mitchell Hedges. And actually his daughter found it. She was playing at one of the areas that they haven't dug in yet, and there was a well there, and in the well she saw like a glint of light, and they reached down and they found she pulled out the skull without the jaw. Later on they found the jaw because the two had it was a very exquisitely carved piece of material, very down to the detail.
Maybe that's why they were taken into different sizes. What I found is intriguing is that many of these skulls are different types of skulls. They're not, the real ones are not patterned after modern human skulls at all. They're very different in many different ways. This one, for instance, has heavy ridges over the eyes. Can you see the skull? Okay, I'll bring it up here. This skull has heavy ridges over the eyes. It has a it has 24 teeth instead of 32. It has a very narrow jaw edge. This particular area here has a heavy exterior area here, much bigger than human. They did a computer overlay of a picture of a bone skull, and it perfectly matched the skull of Homo erectus, who lived maybe 1 million years ago. What's intriguing about it is there are only 5 known bone skulls, and none of them are full. They're just partial. Yet they made a full skull out of some type of prototype. So what we don't know is, where did the model come from? And was it a contemporary skull? Was this made 1 million years ago?
The time will come when the 13 skulls come together. You know, the prophecy, the Mayan prophecy, is about 13 crystal skulls coming together. Each one, you know, performing its particular function. And what will happen is a gateway will open. You know, there's a very ancient story about the gathering of sorcerers. And what they would do is, upon occasion, gather around the pyramids. And with their intent, they would draw the sun down. And that's why many of the pyramids are found to be scorched. And as a result of the sun being drawn down, a gateway would open, and very unusual beings, alien beings, would pass into this dimension, bringing crystal skulls with them, bringing unusual crystals, unusual artifacts with them.
The question comes is, what do I think is the purpose of these skulls? I believe that these skulls are coming out at this time in numbers that have never been recorded in history. These are coming out now to assist mankind in raising the vibrations to match the raising vibration in the earth itself. We are moving into a higher vibration. More and more people are becoming psychic and aware and sensitive and spiritual, and the whole planet is going through a change. All this is recorded, and I believe these skulls are here to help in that. How they're doing it, I don't know. Maybe just to assist the people who connect with them, maybe to assist in raising their consciousness, making them aware that there's something really unusual about the world that's beyond the physical senses.
The skulls represent an ancient race of silicon beings, what they called in Carlos Castaneda's work the inorganic beings. And I've discovered that from a certain point in the history of humanity, we had split. Our organic side split from our inorganic side. And the inorganic being went into what's called the realm of hyperspace, the realm of all probabilities, the realm where the astral meets the physical, and the physical meets the astral. But the human, the organic, went into a carbon-based world, and that's this world here. And the realm of hyperspace is a silicon-based world, and that's why they came out as crystals. And a lot of the interest in crystals nowadays, in the silicon, in the silicates, and the using of quartz, is as kind of a melding of the two worlds. The two worlds are coming back together. The realm of hyperspace and this physical realm are coming back together. The more people are seeing UFOs, the more paranormal experiences are occurring, the more the gateway of hyperspace is opening and connecting with this world.
There is changes before and after. There are changes. I would like to see
So reach out. And show him reaching out, grabbing the skull. Reach out, grab the skull, and hold it close to you up so they can see it in the picture, like up your throat. Okay, now place it back down. Now watch the size of the aura. Take a second or so, the aura should come back in.
You have to understand that the crystal skulls are made for an extreme experience, an impactful experience. The crystal skull's not going to come to you and pet you and say nice things to you and the things you want to hear. No, it's going to show you the depth of your soul. It's going to show you your dark side. And a lot of people can't stand to see that. Sometimes a negative experience is more positive than we could ever consider. We just don't understand how to interpret it.
You had something there for a second where the whole aura went to the skull. You can speak Spanish. I always listen to people who speak Spanish. I'm trying to learn.
Like that.
All right, these are aura photographs that have been taken of the crystal skull, and also another artifact that my friend Maya had gotten from the Tibetan Lama called a healing draga. The healing draga is a piece of quartz that has been carved into a dagger, and it's used ceremonially by the Tibetans to subdue demons. So in museums I've seen a lot of metal ones, and different forms, different sizes, but I've never seen one made out of quartz. I'm sorry we don't have it here today, but the pictures illustrate the energy that's coming out of these artifacts. And they seem to be very interesting. There's a lot of intensity of energy coming out of it. And the one picture that shows Maya holding the skull and the draga, there's no energy coming out of it, but the energy is around her head. So it seems to me that holding them sort of infuses the energy into you, that they are used for healing.
Good. She has a show too.
That's cool. You got something that time. Yeah. I put something in. So you got, I know there had to be a flare of color.
That's the Mayans and the Toltecs were very much into the understanding of what a negative experience is. And a negative experience, like for instance, they were very much into nightmares. I know at the beginning of my apprenticeship with my benefactor, I spent the first about 5 years having all nightmares. Every night, one nightmare after the other. And then I tried to find out, well, why am I getting all these nightmares? And eventually I found out that what nightmares are important information to show you where you're lacking in power.
It doesn't take long. I know what it needs to do. Yeah, not salt. Now I put it in the earth, and then I put it out in the sun. I know what it needs.
Just water moving
Yeah.
for 5 minutes.